Hello, Tier DeYoung. And it's just come up on Julia's screen too. Christopher Gillingham, Jane, they're always on here among the very first. Chris and Jane in Leamington, Alistair Murray. G'day from down under, watching in replay after walking at Balmoral. He says we haven't. That's Pedro Foiling Sailor. Alistair, we got an AAAA today from Alistair. 3 degrees here. Might cozy up with SI rather than going for a bike ride. Let's get this one across the line. Welcome. And Julie Ahrens is on saying, hello, Fozy from sunny and perfect 75-degree weather in Cleveland.
Wow.
We're live again from Studio B after a week down at Newport Beach, California at the Balboa Yacht Club for the 56th Annual Governor's Cup. I hope you had a chance to watch some of that, Julia.
Yeah, that whole video reprise of that you did is really terrific.
Well, we thank you for that. We're going to do a bit more of a reprise today on really kind of the insider scoop of what happened at GovCup all week long, and we're very happy to have you all join us for that, including Bob Walker. Great job this past week. Viewing was spectacular. Thank you, Bob. And Joe Holtzman checking in from Estes Park in beautiful Colorado. And who else is here? Gordon Smith, good evening from Denmark. You wonderful lot. He likes to say that.
Yes.
And hot in Davis Island in Florida, Philip Laffin. Oh, Philip, by the way, the GovCup was fabulous. Julie Ahrens saying, bravo Zulu to Jeffrey Petersen. Yes, the winner ultimately, his second GovCup. I think he's now number 13 to have won it twice over the 56 years that's been running. So bravo Zulu to him and to everybody else. Thanks for tuning in last week. 10 live shows in 6 days, and I'm none the worse for wear. Maybe
a little bit worse for wear.
Maybe practiced up. I don't know, Julia.
Yeah, well,
maybe
we can keep going.
Maybe, no. I got now to turn my attention to the St. Francis Yacht Club Staggering Cruise, the Stag Cruise. What day is it today? Here's your first clue.
Swedish Red Bull Day.
It's Swiss.
Swiss,
not Swedish for starters, but you're and it's not Red Bull Day. August 1st, let's see who gets it. Ed Worley, maybe? Any of the other Fozy, if they will get what day it is today. I'll give you another clue here on camera 4. It has more to do with that White Cross than that team. Cheese Day, Gordon Smith is No, Gordon, it's not Cheese Day. 2007 AC32 Cup win. No, Stingray, not that either.
Is that the crew for the next crew?
No, it might be. It's some of the team. Gosh, I can't believe it. Nobody's gotten it yet. And even allowing for the back and forth of the bit of a delay. Steve Ross, good afternoon. Tom and Julia from San Diego, I want you to know I watched your entire GovCup presentation. Very excellent sailing by everybody. You and my old friend Andy Rose are great presenters. Swiss Army Knife Day, Alistair Murray. No, close.
Oh, yeah.
John Emmett, good evening all. AC Cup loss today, Denise Petersen. No. White Cross Day. No. Okay, this is getting ridiculous. Here it is. Today is Swiss National Day, August 1st every year. It's dating to something in the 1200s. And of course, when you are having Swiss National Day, Augustwagen bread is what you cook, you bake, and here's a little bit, just a short video, I'm not going to play the whole thing, about Swiss National Day, and we hope all of you who are celebrating are having a wonderful day.
Switzerland's National Day is celebrated each year on August the 1st. Let's take a look at the history of this holiday. It honours the historic alliance between the three cantons of Uri, Schwyz and Unterwalden. The signing took place on the Rutley Field near to Lake Lucerne in early August 1291. The charter united the signatories in the struggle against Habsburg rule, the family then possessing the Duchy of Austria in the Holy Roman Empire. With the formation of this alliance, the Swiss Federation was founded. The date of August the 1st was selected by the Swiss Federal Council in the late 1800s. Despite deciding on a date in 1891, the day only became a public holiday in 1994. To mark Swiss National Day, here are some interesting facts about Switzerland. The official name of Switzerland is Confederatio Helvetica, which means Swiss Confederation in Latin. Helvetica is named after the Helveti, who were a prominent tribe in the region during Roman times. The Swiss flag is square, not rectangular, though a rectangular version is used at the Olympic Games. French, under Napoleon Bonaparte, are the only nation to ever conquer Switzerland. Switzerland's Gotthard Tunnel is the longest in the world, measuring 57 kilometres or 35 miles in length. Switzerland has over 1,500 lakes, and nobody is ever more than 16 kilometres or 10 miles from a lake. Women did not gain the vote at the federal level until 1971. The Swiss eat the most chocolate in the world, on average 11.3 kilograms or 25 pounds per person per year. Patek Philippe of Switzerland invented the wristwatch in 1868. Switzerland's Sonnenberg Tunnel is the world's largest nuclear shelter. It can hold up to 20,000 people. St. Peter's Church in Zurich has the largest church clock face in Europe, measuring 8.7 metres or 28 feet in diameter. Tim Berners-Lee invented the World Wide Web in Switzerland in 1989. In 2007, Swiss troops accidentally invaded Liechtenstein after getting lost in a rainstorm. Swiss men have the longest life expectancy in the world. Life expectancy is 81.3 years for Swiss men and 85.3 years for Swiss women. In Switzerland, it is illegal to keep just one guinea pig. They must be kept in pairs.
Okay, well, that's probably more than you wanted to know about Switzerland, courtesy of OfficeHolidays.com. I like that video, though.
Yeah, I do too.
And I don't know about you, Julie, I like to learn about countries and what's going on, and it's particularly on their national day. And let's face it, it's one of the great yachting nations in the history of the world,
Yes.
right? How many nations have won the America's Cup? The U.S.,
Switzerland,
Australia,
Australia, New Zealand.
New Zealand, and Switzerland. 4.
Yeah.
Switzerland's obviously one of the great yachting nations in the history of the world. As we got people on here. So when does the Swiss Navy celebrate its anniversary? Holtzman is asking. Hi, Joe. Joe's our latest patron via patreon.com. We appreciate that, Joe. Alan Long, welcome to the Fun with Flags. Yeah, it's one of the few countries with a square flag, as you all know by now. Replying to Hamish Ross, who said earlier that happy 157th birthday to 1920 Cup-winning skipper Charles Francis Adams III, one of the big names in U.S. yachting over the years.
Wow.
And what else do we have here of note? I guess not much else. So let's get into John Emmett's report. John's been a busy boy. He's feeling much better, after the head and the neck and all that stuff.
I hope so.
Yeah, no, he is. He's doing better. And I was texting at some length with him this morning. We've actually got 2 reports from John today because the 29er Worlds are taking place there in Weymouth. And I thought we should have a look at them because it's a huge event. There are 205 entries at the Weymouth and Portland National Sailing Academy, starting the 27th, running through the 4th of August. And it's, as I said, it's a fabulous event. It's the 2023 29er World Championship. Now, the 29er is the training boat, really, for the 49er and the 49er FX, smaller version of the skiff. And today, just coincidental with it being the Swiss National Day, John yesterday interviewed the youngest competitor at the 29er World. She is only 13. Have a look.
Day 2 of the 29er Worlds. We've got an all-female team. Can you introduce yourselves?
I'm Alena.
And I'm Liv.
Where are you from?
I'm from Switzerland.
And I've got this right. You are the youngest competitor here. How old are you?
I'm 13.
That's amazing. And you're already taller than me. That isn't not a great achievement, I know, but there we go. And you've had a very good day today. You started off with spot prize. Is that correct?
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Can you tell us how that works? I have no idea.
I got a how do you say?
Oh no, first of all we woke up and I checked my phone and
It was
then
like-
there was like a message, congratulations Malena, in the group chat.
Yeah.
And we both were
Like,
I don't know.
excited. Yeah. Yeah. And then I came here and got to the race office and got the like
the check.
for Musto.
Yeah, well-
100.
Thank you very much,
Pounds,
Musto. There we go. It's a nice way to start the day. And you're the first groups off the water today. Tell us a little bit about the racing. I mean, you could probably see from the background it was another windy day in Weymouth.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Like the first 2 races were quite stable wind and good wind. I think was easy to sail. And in the third race, the wind turned like I don't know how many degrees, like 10,
20.
to the right, and then yeah,
The weather
And,
was very
like
not good.
I can only apologise for the British weather, but I mean, I don't know if I'm allowed to say this, but I think you've got better conditions than the Moths had. Better too windy than not enough.
Yeah.
For Wednesday, you might have a very big day. I'm not sure if you'll be in the water. What did you think of yesterday? Were you happy with the decision?
Yeah. I mean, we weren't out, so
That's what I meant.
yeah.
But
I,
it would be funny to just sail like for training. I
we've
think
been really
the
fun.
regatta would have been a little bit sketchy and all. Yeah.
I mean, we don't want broken boats.
Yeah,
No.
Or broken people. Sorry, I had that the wrong way round.
Yeah.
And obviously I've made a big thing about it, but you were a very young athlete. Can you tell us what your sailing history was and how you ended up as a team? What class did you sail before?
I started sailing Optimist when I was 7. Then I got too heavy. Like I think I stopped sailing Optimist when I was 11, and then last year I started sailing 29.
So you have a real step up. Lots of time. And yourself?
I also started like 7 with her,
Yeah.
and then
So you've raced against each other
yes,
Yeah.
before you raced with each other.
Yeah.
exactly.
How does that work? How did you decide who's got the stick and how did it all come together?
I first sailed with another guy, and then it was when we were young. It was always our dream to sail like together. In our club there was a boat for 20, and we always wanted to sail on this boat. And as I said, I first sailed with a guy, and then it didn't work out.
So good for you. And what's your plans going forward after this? What's next big? And I assume you're campaigning next year.
Like for this year, our goal is to go to the Youth Worlds, but yeah,
Here is
I
the
think it's gonna be
qualification.
hard.
Well, I wish you lots of luck. I mean,
Thank you.
it's a very special event because
Yeah.
it's the only event really, other than the Olympics or maybe the test event, where it's one
Yeah.
sailor per country. And as a coach, the people who do well at that event, we see them in a few years at the Olympics.
Yeah. Yeah, and then maybe like after 29er ethics for sure, and then
Sounds a logical progression.
then hopefully our biggest goal I say is like the Olympics one day, but I mean that's really far away right now.
Well, I hear Brisbane's nice in the summer, but we'll see what happens. Wishing you lots of luck. Thanks very much for talking to me, and I hope you get lots more races in.
Thank you
Thank
very
you
much.
so much.
29er Worlds now in full flow. Can you tell us about your day? I think you're feeling quite happy to be in the first group on the water and the first group off.
Yeah, it was a good day and the race committee got off a solid 4 races, so it was good. And the wind was tricky at times, but we managed to.
Yeah, get through.
It was nice that it wasn't like yesterday blowing a gale, so we got.
Well, you had a day off yesterday. In fact, sorry, I've made the fatal interviewer mistake. I should introduce Island 17, or rather, you introduce yourselves.
We're IRL 17, and my name's Alana Toomey.
Yeah, and I'm Lucia Cullen.
And you've had a really good start to the regatta, but lots of racing to go. Can you tell us a little bit about today, because it was still pretty fresh, and it's looking like we've got at least one more big day in the championships.
Yeah, it was pretty up and down as the day went on. Kind of the wind was here and there, so it was a bit tricky, but yeah.
Yeah, it was constantly changing, but I think it's what makes it fun, I suppose, so it was good.
And do you have any top tips for the people who are out there racing now? You said you felt a bit sorry for them as you're coming in and they're just heading out, but you know, we don't have enough for 4 fleets in one harbour, however big it is.
A top tip for them on the water, say, speed is number one, and speed's your friend, and clear air.
All the things that are very easy to say, but not necessarily.
Easier said than done.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, going to wish you lots of luck for the rest of the championships, and I'm sure you want to go and get out your wetsuits now.
Yeah. Thank you.
I just, what a fabulous sport. I just sitting, it gives me goosebumps to see these kids, how bright they are. A 13-year-old
Yes.
racing, doing well from Switzerland.
Yes.
And now this Irish pair. And it's just fabulous. We say it all the time, and how lucky we are.
Yes.
And Emmett's doing a terrific job. John, thank you very much. Yeah, the weather is usually not like this. That's what we said down at GovCup too. But you tell you what, it's breezy in Europe. They didn't race yesterday at Weymouth at this 29er Worlds. They did race today, and it was windy and rough. And you heard that later in the day was even worse.
Right.
Now, John Tell, I haven't heard the official, but it's, what time is it there in London? 21:17 now at night, obviously, 21:09 something p.m. And when I talked to him a couple hours ago, he didn't think they were racing tomorrow, Wednesday. And I know we're going to give you a little report, not much of one, but at Cowes, this is Cowes Week down in the Solent.
Oh, yeah.
And in Cowes, Isle of Wight, likewise, they did race, I believe, today, August 1st, and I've got some reportage from that, but I don't think they're going to race tomorrow because it is blowing dogs off chains, oysters off rocks, and all the other cliches. Graham Sweeney talking about saying, if you ain't breaking them, you ain't racing them. Yeah, but you got to save the boats and bodies. I think John's right. And you're talking about the Swiss and on their national day. Heaven is where the police are British. This is, this old joke. The chefs are French, mechanics are Germans, the lovers are Italian, and it's all organized by the Swiss. And then hell, it's the other way around. Well, yeah, but Emmett is standing in a pothole, or are those teenagers really tall? They're tall, and John's not he's not the tallest guy in the world. And the proud president of the Australian Yachting Federation, Alistair Murray, saying the Australians were leading the 29er Worlds after day 2. Not sure what happened today, day 3. And did you know how do you say that, Graham Sweeney? Lugnazad today pronounced. Oh, there it is. Yeah. Say it, Julia.
Lunasa.
Nofsa. I don't know. That must be something Scottish, right? I don't know what the hell that is, Graham. You really threw us for a loop there. And to think that probably their native language is German. Those Swiss ladies could be French, but they didn't sound francophone to me.
Yeah.
German, Swiss. They probably speak Romansh, that strange Swiss.
I like that language.
You do?
Yeah, because it's almost all Latin, and I understand Latin.
Well, I don't understand it at all. But then, of course, they obviously speaking English as their third or fourth language. Bravo Zulu to them. Bravo Zulu to these Irish kids as well. Nice stuff. And just one last picture from the 29er Worlds, where they have 410 sailors. That's 205 entries, two sailors per boat from fully 25 countries there at the Weymouth and Portland National Sailing Academy. And we have look at that. That's just a part of that's a John Emmett photo, I think, unless his wife Lily took it. And here is his report for today.
Hi Tom, Julia and all the Fozy. You might be able to hear in the background we're at a very busy Weymouth and Portland National Sailing Academy for the 29er Worlds. So it's been a breezy start to the race. Indeed, yesterday I think we only got a couple of races in for 2 fleets. And the second fleet, you may see some covers going off in the background. They're just getting prepared to launch, including Lily. Unfortunately, she's got a little bit of a lower back issue, but she's really enjoyed sailing the skiff. And I say it's a breezy week. It's ironic after the Moths, where they struggled a little bit with the light winds, too much sunshine, very hot, and no racing for that reason. Here we've been right on the edge of sailing for the other reason, because it was very windy. And indeed, I think there's a possibility we may lose another day on Wednesday. So race officer is making hay while the sun shines. And that means putting in as many races as he can today for safety reasons. And I say this with my coach's hat on. It's really important to think about safety, especially for the young sailors at the beginning of their career, because the difference between the top sailors and the bottom sailors of the fleet, especially when we're around robin, is really big. And it's interesting also to see some of the names I recognise from racing against their parents who are now joining the fleet. So yeah, the future's bright for 29er class. Boat park is completely full. Had to find, well, it's not completely full at the moment because half the boats are out racing. But yeah, it was hard to find a space for my Ilka. So I have one here, one at the Castle Cove Sailing Club. So I've been doing club racing and trying to help out with the media, which has been a lot of fun. But Portland Harbour provides a very safe venue, and it means if it's really light winds or really strong winds compared to other South Coast venues, and indeed other venues worldwide, we're quite likely to be able to get out. But once again, very many thanks to Lily for holding the camera. I think she probably needs to go and get a wetsuit on and go and get on the water. But I should make it onto the show. Time difference in the UK is pretty much my friend, although I'm still having a lot of treatment for my neck injury, so it's acupuncture and so on, late in the evening at the end of the day, so I might be a bit late. And yeah, it looks like I'm going to be in The Hague, and I'm hoping we don't have strong winds there, because the big waves, that's what really makes a difference. So yeah, see you later on the show, and hope everyone's well. Bye for now.
Another great report. I love it. Just gives you the feeling of being there.
Yeah, absolutely.
And hey, Dogzilla, who is, of course, Stingray, is saying, be careful not to get kicked as the soccer ball, the football goes by. Gordon Smith making the very good point that Weymouth is a great example of an Olympic legacy investment that really counts. From legacy from the 2012 Olympics, of course. Fantastic facility. And thank goodness Graham Sweeney has helped me out a bit. Now he's saying, also known as Lamas, I guess you'd pronounce it, or first fruits. It's a pagan holiday. Another great vlog, John Emmett, Gordon Smith saying, indeed. Thanks, John, for doing that. John Emmett, sailing, get to the front of the fleet. Regular reportage here on the show. He always likes to say, please subscribe and share to your own Facebook and YouTube pages. Okay, we go forward now into our the B block with a full kind of report, insider report, behind the scenes report on the 2023 Governor's Cup. What a fabulous event from soup to nuts, from the day I got there, which was last Sunday, getting set up, and then the Monday night event. So that apparently many of you watched the Meet the Teams, the polite but fun roast. In fact, Andy Rose got roasted pretty well this year by the teams. There was you saw the prank. Yeah. That Morgan Pinckney and Coach Will Bolden from WA, Western Australia, and some of the other kids pulled on Andy.
Yeah.
It was.
At first, he was not amused.
He still's not sure if he's amused because, you know, Andy, like you, Julie, he went to Stanford.
Oh, yes.
And he's got to be on top of everything. He's got to be in charge of everything. Even when I'm producing one of these shows, you know, he sits next to me in the show, and he's trying to direct the show from second fiddle. I say, Andy,
relax.
Well, relax. We'll get this. But good fun, good humor. 12 teams that were just fabulous. And here's the B bumper, as we call it, just to get you in the mood. As if you probably haven't seen this enough in the past week, those of you who did follow the live coverage. 10 live shows in 6 days. And it is great seeing the boat park full there back on that report from John Emmett. Alistair Murray, thank you. Jeffrey Petersen from his win a couple years ago, ending the so-called B bumper that we use at the start of all the GovCup live coverage. 12 teams from 8 nations, a record 8 nations. Max Paul, Cole Tapper, Marcello Torre from Australia. Nicholas Bernal, who, we were worried about his language, and his English wasn't perfect, but one of his crew was fabulous and chimed in. Gabriella, whose last name escapes me. So they were fine. Alec Coleman from Canada, his team, they were just gentlemen and a hoot. Timothy Rossi from France struggled a bit with English, but once he kind of warmed up and was made comfortable by, among others, our good friends from Fort Worth, the Texans.
Oh, yes.
Anthony Chalmant, who is French, and his fabulous wife, Kimmy, and their kids. Yeah. They made the French team feel very comfortable indeed, and it was great that they were there and sort of took Timotei and his team under their collective wings. Alexander Colquitt is a very smart, very nice kid from Britain, Great Britain, and his whole team. Tom Higgins was maybe my favorite team. They were, I don't know if you saw some of the pre-photos when we did, but he sent me a headshot of him in a tux. Now, how classy is that? From some event, and it was a collegiate sailing event in Ireland, where he sent up, and it was black tie. They're British Isles, and they're proper and Irish, and a headshot in a tux. So I thought right away, and then when Andy and I got to the dock, coming back from his house Sunday night, we were going over to the club to have a quiet dinner. Lined up on the dock were these 3 kids, Tom Higgins' Irish team, in perfectly pressed matching polo shirts, red polo shirts from their club, the St. George's Yacht Club in Ireland. And were there waiting for us. They'd heard we were on our way back on the Duffy, on the little shoreboat that Andy has. And we're waiting there just kind of like a receiving line almost to shake our hands, to thank Andy for having invited them to the event and all the TV coverage ahead of time. Fabulous.
They were terrific.
And it's like that across the board. Josh Hyde, who's a youngster from New Zealand, Royal New Zealand Yacht Squadron, his entire team, they didn't have the greatest regatta, but they were terrific onshore and off, and clean sailing, smart kids. Likewise, Justin Callahan, who finished 4th. Justin from the Biscayne Bay Yacht Club in Florida, his dad, Paul, their dad, because his twin brother's sailing with him, Mitchell. And I've known his dad since forever, Paul Callahan, and just one of the nicest, coolest people in our sport, at least in this country. Jeffrey, as you all know, won, and then a hilariously laid-back, cool Southern California boy, surfer, fisherman, surf fisherman, even sailor extraordinaire Morgan Pinckney rounded out the fleet, and that regatta started last Monday and wrapped on Saturday night. 12 teams, as I said, from a record 8 nations. You probably all know by now that Petersen won. Jeffrey won the finals. And going into it against Cole Tapper from the CYCA Cruising Yacht Club of Australia, Jeffrey left 2-0. And here was the dramatic final, what turned out to be the final race. Jeffrey won 3-0. But in this 2-0 race, I had gone on record in the commentary saying, I really think Cole Tapper's he hadn't given up. Those guys are really smart. This was not his first time at the rodeo. Cole Tapper and co were back for their second time around. And I think they're going to win this race. When it just looked like they weren't into the top mark the first time, Jeffrey hit the first mark. He's leading, and he hit the first mark. It was an unforced error. To be fair, there was a lot of current. Those of you who were watching the TV show swept Jeffrey and co into the top mark, so now they owe a penalty. Somehow they were able to erase the penalty. They did their loop.
Yep.
And by the time they were done coming out of the penalty, they were just barely ahead of Cole, who then passed them up the second weather leg, and the drama was at the top mark the second time.
Ever so slight lefty.
Looks like a clear cross for Cole Tapper and his team, so another lead change there.
Yep.
Great sailing there.
Yep, very well done.
Although here, because Jeffrey and his team have been on port for a little bit longer, they've got their pole on, so chances that they might be able to do a slightly better set. And you see, as Tommy said,
here we go.
Cole takes him past the mark just so he gets set. Make sure he gets the pole ready.
Now, the big question here is when does Tapper pull away? You know, and what he's going to be looking for is obviously for Petersen to be slow, you know, and then he will pick the right time when Petersen's in a bad shape and he's in better shape. That's when you're going to see him go for the hoist. So we may be like this for quite a while, guys. So
Andrew,
certainly
seen this movie
don't look
before.
away.
We've seen this movie before. What they're doing, just for those of you to put you on the course, we aren't looking over the course right now. They've both gone past the windward mark. Cole Tapper has the right of way as the leeward boat. You can see where they should be coming is right to the center bottom of your screen right now, but they're not. So they're continuing to go out. They're working on boat speed right now and trying to decide at some point. Cole's going to decide, okay, I've gained a little bit here. I'm going to pop the chute really well, and I'm going to get down there. Jeffrey is just waiting for a slight mistake on Cole's part. Again, Jeffrey Petersen's speed and his team, Max and Enzo, have been really fast downwind. So, if I was Cole, I'd be happy with where I am, but I'd be nervous.
It's funny, both bowmans on each boat here. Tapper's boat has removed their spinnaker pin, so Jeffrey's boat has responded there with Enzo putting away their spinnaker pole. So what that tells me is that Tapper's ready to keep going all the way to Long Beach here.
Yep. So one thing that the further they go upwind, the more this plays into Jeffrey Petersen's hand, because there's a longer downwind that they're going to have to come back down around. So he's got more time to get the pass on.
But I guess also too, in addition to being upwind, if Tapper can take him so that there's a long jibe back in, a long starboard,
here we go,
reaching into the committee boat.
Here we go, Tommy. Spinnakers are up, and a jibe. And Jeffrey's a little better than Tapper. Tapper now is just now filling his chute. Jeffrey Petersen with a brilliant move there. His crew work, was just superb, and he's just already threatening to roll Cole Tapper. Whoa, there's a little collapse. So Cole's coming out from under him a bit. Oh, this is going to be quite a race, guys.
So it looks like Cole is breathing out front. So that means he's getting wind in front of Jeffrey's spinnaker. So that was really, really good. Just saved it on Cole Tapper's boat. So he's got breeze out front. And remember, they do have to make sure they leave this top mark on the correct side, which they are going the wrong side of it. So there'll be a jibe pretty soon.
Air forward, as we said, in the America's Cup.
So now at this point, Cole is marginally in downwind jail, but interestingly, it's above the windward mark. And as Matt is absolutely correct, they cannot go past the mark and leave it to port on their left side. They have to get that starboard side in there, and they're going to have to go past the mark here.
Well, it looks like they're not listening to Matt's advice here. Be interesting to see what Jeffrey does.
Yeah, here comes Jeffrey.
Oh, this is a big mistake.
Oh, my goodness.
Another Fuster Cluck.
Oh, my goodness. Is he forgetting to...
Of magnificent proportions.
He's forgetting to unwind.
Jeffrey's pointing this out to the umpires.
Oh, my goodness. Oh.
So this will be interesting, too, for any proper course. If the boats come together again, they're technically now on different legs. Am I right, Matt?
Yes.
Yes, they are on different legs. Cole Tapper is on the beat right now, technically.
Oh, my goodness. Oh. Tom, I don't know what to say.
Downwind.
So Jeffrey now, he should be breathing a bit of a sigh of relief here. This is almost like a bit of a nice, swan song, a bit of a cruise as he comes down to the finish line here.
Yeah, Jeffrey Petersen just needs to sail for the 200, 300 yards down to this finish line, and he's the only one on the downwind leg of the course. So even if Cole Tapper appears to cross the line first, he has not technically rounded that top mark correctly, so he is still on the beat.
Tom, am I correct in saying, I believe last year, one of the final races, which was ultimately called off, Jeffrey did exactly the same wrong thing. He did not unwind himself from the gate. He did not unwind. And by that we mean just if you drew a string, if a string was behind the boats, be sure that you always round the marks in the right correction. What happened with Cole is he went around and to unwind it means he did not round that mark ever.
Well, it's
and he's thinking, look at this. He's thinking, God, maybe I'm going to cross him, and this is going to be great. And
that's some fodder for the press conference, Andrew.
Yeah, it is. I don't even want to bring it up. It's something that sometimes you just make complete mistakes like that, and it happens.
He'll bring it up. But this red and white kite of Cole Tapper, while appearing to be in the lead, they have not, we don't believe, properly sailed the course.
We don't believe, yes. confirm that there is a flag up.
There's no flag on the bow of the committee boat.
A yellow flag has gone up.
Jeffrey Petersen has just won the Governor's Cup, his second Governor's Cup, joining 12 people who have won 2 cups. Incredible job, great job, and it's sad to see it end that way, Tom.
Indeed.
You know, they were having a really close, wonderful race, and hate to see that, but you know, Jeffrey Petersen was the best team out here. Jeff and Max and Enzo, just, you know, that was awesome.
It's just sinking into Cole Tapper here. What's happened? He's confused. He just crossed the line ahead here, and but jubilant scenes here with Petersen and the crew. Finally getting to relax, and I think the ceremonial dip's about to happen.
I was just going to say, there they go. The traditional Governor's Cup dive. All the crew leaves the yacht, and as you see, the boat is the bosun boat is ready for it because they've seen it now for about 25 years. But I'll tell you what, that's the best feeling in the world to dive in after winning the Governor's Cup.
And great job from the bosun there. We had a beautiful retrieval of the GovCup 22.
As I said, they're getting pretty good. You know, they've been. This is not their first rodeo.
Tommy, you're going to
wonderful
pick up,
dive from all 3 crew there.
Yeah.
I saw a little bit of a twist from Enzo as he jumped in.
Tommy, you're going to pick at least Jeffrey up, if not all 3 of them, and do a bit of an interview. We may lose you for a moment when you do that.
Okay, so as several of you said, that was just an unbelievable brain fade, sad move by Cole Tapper, as I called it, a fustercluck of magnificent proportions there. But, you know, it was an interesting conclusion, sad conclusion in many ways. I was really cheering for Cole on and off through the whole regatta. Not that I would cheer against Jeffrey, our home club favorite, but it was a well-sailed event otherwise by Cole and crew. As Rick Bannerow is saying, so sad for Cole and guys, but they will never forget this again the rest of their sailing careers. I think you're right, Rick. And Jeffrey was gracious in his win, and Cole was even more gracious in their loss. Jeffrey got interviewed by Tommy Spithill. This is obviously, you probably all know, this is Jimmy Spithill's, we call him the more famous brother. Fabulous sailor and coach and media guy by now. Let's tune back in.
Okay, here we go.
So guys,
Tommy,
I've got the winning team right here. Jeffrey, firstly, just introduce your team, mate.
Yeah, from this front of the boat, Enzo Mendito. It's his first match racing regatta ever, and he's the reason we won today. He was calling all the shifts out there on the race course, and he was pretty awesome all week. And then we got Max Brennan trimming the main and the spinnaker, and my God, does he make that boat go fast. I owe it to these boys 100%. Didn't do too great on the starts today. They really pulled us back into the race and tried to keep me calm when I was losing my shit. So probably for the bad language there, but that last one was pretty stressful. So we're just happy.
Terrific, mate. Enzo?
Yes.
Pretty good record. Are you going to retire?
I might think about it. No, I'm just kidding.
Undefeated.
Since it's my first match racing route, I honestly fell in love with the sport. And this is why I love the sport so much, because there's like so many different aspects to it. But you'll see me back on the match racing course once or twice. So, yeah.
And Max, you know, you've been actually sailing with Finn a bit. How did it feel to get one up on him?
Yeah, you know, it's always good to beat your friends. But no, they gave us a great final series and a great regatta, so I'm really happy. And, you know, this is my last Governor's Cup, so last day in the boats to come out and have a good day and take away the win on the last one feels really good.
And for you, Jeffrey, and the team, I think last year there was issues with unwinding yourself around the course and what have you. How sure were you when you saw him go the other side of the yellow marker? You're like, oh, sweet, righto, I think we've done it, but you're sort of still like, okay, guys, keep it cool. Talk us through that.
Yeah, so obviously we took it for a little scenic route above the top mark there, and you know, we were both jockeying for position, and credit to Cole and his team, they really dirtied us out of that. They had a really great hoist and sailed high, but they kept sailing high, and Max is like, hey, just remember, like, we got to go to the left-hand side of this mark. We got to actually round it, and we're like, yeah, okay. And then he keeps reaching up and the mark passes to Leward, and we waited until it was like a beam reach jibe for us, and jibe and took a step down just to make sure. And then at that point it was like, okay, it's in the hands of the umpire now. He didn't sail the course. We're going to, keep engaging and pretending like, we're sailing still and not give any clue to, hey, you might have not rounded the mark. And we definitely learned our lesson after last year. We're not going to make that mistake twice.
Okay, well, that's gives you a pretty good feel for what happened in that last race, right, Julia?
Yeah.
Any questions from
And we went on, did a few more questions, and then wrapped up the telecast, the broadcast from out on the water. Chris Bretschker and Co. from GovCup TV. I think 23 people this year. And, it's not perfect. It's we make a few mistakes, but
it is amazing that it is the only known broadcast of sailing from on the water. And you see so much more, and you feel so much more.
No, you're right. These days, it's most of the commentators are in the sound booth, in a sound booth, someplace like in London for Sail GP, for the Olympics, and so on. Much less expensive to be sitting in front of a monitor, but as you say, Julia, a lot harder to do commentary when you are cooped up somewhere half a world away. But sitting next to Tommy Spithill there in the Surf Rider, which belongs to Dr. Rob Ray, the sponsor of the event, is Claire Costanza, also from Australia, a former GovCup winner, and she just did a terrific job, as did Tommy. And, we call them our sideline reporter, and they're really not. They're our frontline reporter because they can see things on the track that we back in the commentary booth on the yacht, on Adios, where we're also switching the show with Chris Bretschker and Co. and running not 2 drones, this year 3 drones. So it's quite a deal. It was a hell of a good effort, and the regatta as I said, from top to bottom was a lot of fun. Bravo Zulu to Jeffrey, Max, and Enzo Mendita, who you heard was sailing in his first match racing regatta. Julia, you asked how did he get hooked up with Jeffrey?
Right.
And he is a teammate of Jeffrey's at Georgetown University, where they're both sailing for their school, their college.
Yeah.
So bravo Zulu to them. That's the Vice Commodore, Randy Taylor, on the left of Balboa Yacht Club, and the Rear Commodore, Mr. Hempel, on the right. They awarded the trophies, and there's some crouton there up on the stage who was switching the show and emceeing it from up there on the stage. About the only place you can do it. I keep trying to get it out of one job or the other, but good fun. And again, bravo Zulu to Cole Tapper and his crew of Hamish Voss, Jack Freeman. Great kids. I mean, they're not kids. They're in their 20s, and fabulous sailors, obviously. And Cole has sailed, and he sailed several times. I think twice. I think his brother last year crewed for him. Mm-hmm. You heard Tommy reference Finn Tapper, and of course, Max Brennan, who crewed for Jeffrey. They had a bit of a falling out, I understand, for a while. I don't think it was anything major, but Max has been going to uni in Sydney and sailing with these guys and Cole Tapper and his brother Finn in match racing down under. So it is, as it should be, a big international group of now good friends. And it was so. Go ahead.
What's really nice about it is that there is obviously a generic camaraderie among all that, and nobody says be nice to each other. I mean, that doesn't happen. That is just grows out of everybody's love for the sport.
Yeah, and it's the atmosphere at Balboa Yacht Club from the Monday night when it's relaxed and Andy's teasing everybody a little bit, and the morning shows that we do. I mean, then there's no regatta where there's so much media. But it's still, I think the kids realize it is still a regatta. It's a championship, not a television show.
Yes.
We try not to let the television intrude on the racing.
Right.
And first and foremost is the yacht racing. But again, bravo Zulu to these guys. I've gotten to know them pretty well over the week. And again, Hamish Voss, Jack Freeman, their parents were watching, their grandparents, which of course, as you know, Julia, is why.
Oh, yes.
Why we do the TV. It's not because we need to do this. It's a lot of hard work. Another example of what is so cool about this regatta is that all the teams are housed by BYC members. And again, lifelong friendships are made out of this. This is a photo taken, I guess, at Monday night. at the Meet the Teams, or after the Meet the Teams, with I don't know the lady's name, but they've given her a bottle of something, probably some nice hearty wine from down under. But this is how polite and gentlemanly the Aussies, all the teams were, as taking a photo out there in front of the flagpole. You can see the big tent in the back, the BYC GovCup tent, and Cole Tapper and Co. Bravo Zulu to them. The other semifinal was Tapper and Morgan Pinckney, and Tapper, to get to the finals, defeated Morgan 3-1, his Newport Harbor Yacht Club team. And Morgan had he won the petit finale, so he ended up third. And Morgan is, as I said, he's a colorful character. He's only 18. He's got, 3 or 4 or 5, maybe 5 more years. It depends when his birthday is. A really good crew with him. And he is just the surfer boy and the surf fisherman and the sailor. And he just graduated from Modern Day, and he is going to Yale University to sail against the Callahan boys, who are at Harvard. And, of course, Jeffrey, who's down at Georgetown, and it's college racing in this country is a bit of a deal, as you all know. So in third place, after they won the petit finale, and with one of 2 women in the regatta, Alex McCoy, so there it was in the bow, in the front end for Morgan, Max Mayall, Mark Murray, and, of course, Morgan driving for the Newport Harbor Yacht Club. The other lady who sailed was Brooke Wilson, was sailing for the Royal Sydney Yacht Squadron. And if you watch the Saturday morning show, the 0900 show, we had both the ladies on the stage, and they were, no surprise, they were fabulous.
Yep.
But to your point earlier, Julia, Jeffrey, who was, he went undefeated in the rounds robin. He got a couple points nicked from him for crashing into boats when he could have avoided well, one was a bad collision. The other one was just a tap.
Yeah.
But you could see after the racing, some of the other teams would come up to Jeffrey, hey, what about this trim? What about that trim? And you could see bar karate, as the Aussies call it, when you get your hands going in the bar and you're talking about the yacht race. And Jeffrey trying to help, and all of them helping each other. This is how we're trimmed. This is the way we're trimmed. This is what we're doing. This is where we put our weight. And it just is I wouldn't call it a clinicata, a clinic and regatta, because it is a championship. It's the oldest youth match racing championship in the world, and arguably, not even arguably, it is the most prestigious event to win, even more so than the World Sailing Worlds. They're trying to steal some of the GovCup's thunder, and the Hardy Cup that's run down under every year, and the Warren Jones, and the whatever the other match racing championships are. But a terrific event. Alex McCoy, a delightful young person, a female sailing in the event, as was, as I mentioned, Brooke Wilson. And then there was the Callahan team, who finished 4th. They lost in the petit finale to Morgan Pinckney. And I've gotten to know these kids well, mostly because they're just terrific sailors, terrific gentlemen. And I've known at least the 2 Callahan boys. They're twins. They're not identical twins. You can see the skipper in the back, Justin, and Mitchell in the front in this shot. And they're fraternal twins, obviously, but twins nonetheless, exceedingly bright. I think they were 1st and 3rd in their high school class before they both went to Harvard. And it was a great performance by them as well. In fact, this is the only match that Jeffrey lost, which was in his semifinal, their semifinal against the Callahan team. And they took that one race off Jeffrey. And we really thought that one might go the full 5. Yeah. It was first to win 3.
There was some talk about Mr. Callahan is not used to losing.
Indeed, he's not. Well, most of these kids are not. I mean, as Andy said, most of them have won national collegiate match racing championship, national other championships in their home countries, and
all of them have won.
Exactly, and several of them won more than one. Mm-hmm. So that was the only loss that Jeffrey had. It was to Justin. And again, you can see this group was all nicely dressed up, nicely comported all week long. It's the way you'd like to see our beloved sport run and participated in. I didn't quite get that sentence out properly. But then I don't have a teleprompter here. I don't have a script. Danny Riano on the left, who is a hoot. Justin Callahan, who's a terrific sailor and a very nice guy. Liam O'Keefe, who is he's really funny. got to know them the last night, and Mitchell Callahan as well, the taller, identical twin. I think he's a few minutes younger than Justin. In
10
fact.
minutes.
Is that what he said? That you were watching the shows. Great stuff. Nice, honest interviews on the water and not corporate speak, Ed Worley is saying. Indeed. Ed made another point up top I want to go back to. He said, look, so have we lost it on the screen? Look, sailors without computers and digital controls.
There have been a couple nice points made in the comments. Mary Longpreet informed us that Jill Golden is the lady who housed the Tapper team.
Oh, Jill Golden? Was that her? I should have had a lower third.
And she also worked with the race committee every day. So
she did?
Yeah.
Well, there were 200, as you will have heard, there were 200 plus volunteers in this organization under the leadership of Christine Gribben.
Yeah, and Alistair Murray and Gordon Smith want to know what the prank was against Andy.
Well, the prank was that last year, Andy had on Monday night, there's Marcello Torre, who looks like Einstein with his hair frizzed way out, and he's a super cool kid from Royal Freshwater Bay Yacht Club in WA, Western Australia, Perth. And he last year, he was put on the stage with Marius Vesterlund from Sweden, who also has got a big hairdo. And Andy, during the meet the teams, said, please, gentlemen, come here. And he sat them down in chairs and then put a barber's kind of smock around them and went at them with a pair of scissors like Edward Scissorhands. That was last year. Mm-hmm. So this year, the kids got back at him and said, this is Mullet Monday, because one of the kids on one of the Australian teams had quite a mullet last year. He trimmed it off, but the hair short, hair on the side short, and then long down the back. So they made Andy sit down in a chair. This is Morgan Pinckney and Will Bolden and a couple of the others. Put a tablecloth. They didn't have a barber smock. They weren't that well organized, but they started like they were going to clip the side of his head, and Andy freaked. No. And he doesn't have a lot of hair anyway.
It might not grow back.
And we should have bought a mullet, a wig off of Amazon, and for $9.95 or something, and then held the thing up and put the mullet on top of Andy and lifted. But the kids got him nonetheless. It was a good clean joke. And hi, Ken Saban saying hi to everybody from Toledo Beach Marina. Rick Bannero, Georgetown University sailing team, GUST, the best collegiate sailing team acronym ever. Indeed, that's cool. So that, Alistair, was Morgan's prank against Andy. And what else? Jill Golden is, we covered that one. What else, Julia? Why was it, Gordon Smith asking, why was it light? Well, it's normally light in SoCal this time of year, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, but usually a little breezier than it was this year. And 3 years ago, it was in the high teens for a couple of days. Hi, Larry Kennedy. Thank you. Nice job, GovCup Media. It was fun. And also the umpires did a terrific job. There was a surprising amount of calls. There was, and there may have been one or two that were, questionable. But I didn't see Tuesday's racing, but I was out there on another boat watching Wednesday, Thursday, just get your brain in gear, and I do a little practice commentary and so on. Andy goes out for a couple of days as well. And so we see what else is going on, not just on Friday and Saturday. And there were a fair few calls. There's a double penalty. When you see 2 flags, that means one yacht has been penalized a second time, normally for a second incident, though it could be 2 penalties for 1 incident. And when you get a second penalty, you have to take that second penalty immediately. You can't wait till the finish. You have to take one of those 2 penalties immediately, absolve yourself. And if you get a third penalty, the match is black flagged, which means it's called off and awarded to the other team. As I said, the umps were across the board. There were a dozen of them also, I think, from 8 different countries.
Yes, interesting group.
Very interesting group, indeed, Julia, and bright and relaxed. Mm-hmm. And you probably saw we did the one live debrief. The umpires come in every day, and this is the chief, the chump, as they're called, not because it's not a pejorative. They are the chief umpire, shortened down to chump. But this guy, whom I just met down there, got to know well. He's going to come on the show. We're going to talk about modern kind of developments in umpiring. in due course. Damien Bolderoo, who's from Newcastle in Australia, a very smart guy, commercial real estate guy, and they all have day jobs. But across the board, they were well led by Damien and did quite a good job, I thought, as an old umpire.
And the sailors even did.
I think the sailors as well felt like that they did. And
it was fair.
Two things that are happening, Julia. One is that immediately after the match, the umpires, and this used to be, the sailors were never, it was always a little awkward, but the umpires go right up and say, here's why we made that call. Do you have any questions? And the sailors will ask. It's all polite. The French got a little histrionic and got Timothée Rossi a couple times got a little, demonstrative. But, no court, or if he was swearing, we didn't know because it was in French. But Damien did a good job leading the effort, and we did do one live umpire debrief. Mm-hmm. And it's not the first time. We've done it in the past. There were several people in the comments saying, wow, look at that, a live on TV umpire debrief. But that's also a terrific part of the sport now, because when we first started umpiring back in 1988, the umpires didn't want to expose themselves to criticism from the sailors. They did not want to do debriefs. And I and late great Cy Gillette and a few others, Joran Petersen, dragged the umpires into a room with the sailors, and it was a little awkward the first few times that we did umpire debriefs, but it actually changes the atmosphere at the regatta for the better.
Yes, and brings a lot more understanding.
And exactly right, Julia. Exactly right. No, that's the Mark Boat guys calling for ice in the coolers. Nice joke. Okay, I don't know what was going on here, but yeah, the umpires. Another umpire is actually Christine Gribben, our chair of. She's been doing this for 10 years. Andy calls her chair for life. Well, her sister, Katie Maxim, has also umpired several of the last go. And Christine herself is an umpire, which just I just want to make the point that one of the reasons this regatta is so successful is that all of at least the leadership, are sailors, are racing sailors, and most of them are superb racing sailors. From the media to the bosuns to Christine and her sister who are umpiring, and so on. And a lot of the people just across the board are, we talk about all the time racing sailors and how important they are to leading organizations, and how organizations are not necessarily well led when they don't have racing sailors in charge. Well, Christine and her sister are. And one of the cool things we talked about, and I didn't get to it during any of the 10 live shows in 6 days, but one of the things that we came up with a few years ago is to hang a poster of each of the 12 teams on the side of the clubhouse where all the junior sailors walk by and all the visitors of the club. And I shot a video of those posters just to show you. And Andy puts these together, and Andy and Christine and her husband, and they, a lot of this stuff, sometimes they go to Kinko's to print it. Sometimes Andy prints it himself on his huge printer, commercial printer in his home office. But it's astonishing to see the kids, the junior sailors, walk by and they read this and there's Marcello Torre and his brother Raphael, who by the way, he's the one that had last year, had the mullet. And that's their yacht club, and we feature the yacht clubs. Every chance we get, we mention the names of the crew on the air, during the commentary, and so on. So that's, I think, another part of it that makes it so much fun. It's not just about the skippers. The commentary boat Adios, which is owned by Chris Bretschker, who's our producer, director, and there in the black hat just next to me. His parents own this boat. It's a Navigator 50-something, 3 or 4. And this, the crew posters, Ed, really are a great idea. This is Matt Whitfield, former GovCup sailor, who is kind of our analyst. Not kind of, he is our analyst. Andy, who's supposed to be doing play-by-play, but he's irrepressible, and he's going to carry on. And I'm opener and closer and just kind of keeping the whole thing organized and in check. There's Chris Bretschker, who is producing, directing. So he and I are sitting next to each other, so I can talk to him. He'll turn my mic off and say something that he wants us to do. So it's that tight of an operation. Next to him is a guy called David George, who's another superb sailor, who is switching the show for Chris now, and that's why Chris doesn't have to say take 1, take 2. He can say David George knows when to go to this drone or that drone, depending upon what we are talking about.
Mhm.
Or we can say, let's now go up to the top mark and see that other match. And it gets to be seamless, so it's a lot better.
It was too.
Go ahead, Julia.
No, and the camera work and drone work was really good.
Much better. With 3 drones, it's even better. We still technically out on the water. It's tough, but as Stingray says, having 3 drones was terrific, and that is for sure, Stingray.
I'm just proud of all the volunteer stuff that makes that go, and the commercial stuff, which is very expensive, doesn't necessarily do as good a job.
And we've been contacted by other clubs and by other, I won't name them, saying, you really do that for free? And we own the equipment.
Yeah.
Over the years, the NIBSA, the Newport Beach, Balboa Sailing Foundation, whatever its association, Chris Bretschker has been buying up this gear. Andy and others raise the money to pay for it, and then that gear gets used at GovCup, and if we do Rose Cup or something, and then I take down some of this studio gear from here in a roller bag, so I can usually use that mostly for the shoreside shows. But it's all volunteers, and it's all equipment we own, and therefore the television cost to us is okay. Over the years, we bought $25,000, maybe $30,000 worth of gear. One other, I just want to point this out because those of you who are televising events, this is let me go to camera 4 here. This is Christine Gribben, who is one of our 2 spotters. This guy's flying a drone. I don't remember his name. And this is also a drone pilot, I believe. And we've got one other drone pilot down below. But you see this board? You can't really make it out perhaps too well on this shot. Maybe it's better over here. But Christine and a guy named Ken Sherb, who is a superb sailor, bright young kid, who sailed in GovCup, in fact. But he, this year, returned to being one of our spotters. And they are standing up there in the front, and I'm communicating with them constantly. They're sending me notes. They're holding up just a pad of paper with something on it. There are spotters. There are analysts. There are statisticians. Or they're pointing up to that board like, hey, Tom, mention this. Or if I'm starting to talk about something, they can tell I've lost the plot, or I'm starting to lose the plot.
Yeah.
Because it's a 6-ring circus. You got 6 different, during the rounds robin, you got 6 different matches going on at once, and they're all interlooped at different times.
22 races.
Each team races 22 matches just in the rounds robin. Exactly right. So Matt Whitfield there on the left, Andy, myself, Chris Bretschker, and David George are the heart and soul of that, at least the forward-facing. But that whole team of 22, each of them is integral. And I'll tell you what, these guys, Claire Costanzo, guy and gal, and Tom Spidhill on the roving boat were superb. And Tom brought Claire in at just the right moment. Her comments were cogent. And
she was good, too.
She was a lot of fun. The production improves every year, Bill Wingrove says, and Wingrove's been following because they've got some Davis Island Yacht Club kids that have sailed in it. Less shots of why, yeah, that's true. The drones really add to the ability to cover all the matches going on at one time. Thank you for that, Bill. And also, not only the 3 drones, but you can see the camera in this shot on the roving boat, which gets up close and personal. It follows the main match with the commentators, the roving boat commentators. And then we have a camera on the front end of the media boat. So if the boats come circle around us, and that camera can also shoot down the starting line. And then we got a guy on the back end of the boat. So when the boats come and use us as a pick, we got a camera on the back of the boat as well. So it is a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 camera show, plus the camera that's on the commentators, which is the safety, the cover cam in case everything else goes to hell. Chris can always cut to us and look at the 2 old farts and Matty Whitfield on the back.
And which he does occasionally.
Which he did, and I tried to get him to do less so this year than he did last, and less so Saturday than he did Friday, which was pretty much the case. Now, where does it get watched? It gets watched at the yacht clubs from which these kids come, which they're representing. It gets watched all over Balboa Yacht Club. This is in the main bar at Balboa Yacht Club. And then the replays are played, all.
You can watch each of you can watch it on YouTube, easy.
Well, it is. And YouTube's the higher quality.
Yeah.
Facebook's not as high quality as YouTube. And my shows, the shoreside shows, were all 1080p this year. We're going to try to do the whole broadcast next year at network quality 1080p 30 frames a second for those of you who are video nerds. There's the team. It's not the entire team. We're missing 2 or 3 people, but that is the GovCup TV team for 2023, led by Chris Bretschker in the upper left corner. Again, all volunteers. They all get a shirt. They all have some drinks and some great fun and great memories of this year's event. That's the view from the stage. I just want to give a shout out to these 2 gentlemen, Robert Collins there, who was my cameraman on shore all week for all the shoreside shows, and Jesse Phelps, who is a pro. He's one of the few guys that's getting paid because nobody else wants to do that job, and he comes and sets all the monitors up, all the audio gear up, all the microphones, and stands back there at a huge mixer and runs it for us, and it's one of the reasons why our audio is so good. And Robert, who is a filmmaker of considerable repute in his own right, runs my shoreside camera operation. It's not easy to do. We were doing 5 camera shows on shore too. 5 cameras, bloody hell. Mm-hmm. That was a look at the stage, and this is the morning show, and I'm not running this to show myself as much as Christine, who really anchors the morning shows. And this is the deputy PRO, Ryan Davidson, who is a former, he's raced himself. Well, this is the deputy PRO. Principal race officer. He's raced in 4 GovCups, finished 3rd once. And that's the kind of people that are running the race committee, to say nothing of Dr. Don Becker here with 2 or 3 others of his race committee, who is the principal race officer. And he's been doing this for something like 25 years as the race officer. So, and also superb racing sailor in his own right. And you see in this picture, you see the boats out here behind. They're being towed out in the fog. It was foggy at least the first 4 mornings. They're being towed out to the race course by the race committee, and they have quite a setup for doing that every morning. And here, I thought you would enjoy seeing it. There's the club in the background, the GovCup tent there, and the race committee does a loop around. The boats all dock out. They scull over to a couple of lines trailing off the committee boat, and they tow them out to 30, 35 minutes out to the race course, out the cut, turn the corner to the right, the breakwater, and go along Newport Beach to the what's called the schoolhouse course. You've probably heard us refer to it because there's an elementary school just on the beach. It'd be a nice place as a kid to go to elementary school. I liked what I saw here. Jeffrey had an American flag up. The Canadians had a Canadian flag, and I suggested to Andy and Christine we ought to ask the teams to bring, or us to provide a national. In fact, the Brazilians also, by the end of the regatta, had a national flag up on their mast heading out, which is a good look.
Yes. So
we're going to do that. We're going to get national flags for all 12 teams next year. Yeah, Bill Wingrove, the boats are packed up and stored between Cup regattas. They get pulled out for maybe one other event. Ed Worley's right. Volunteers make the difference because they're doing the work. They're doing the work they love, and they love the sport. Hi, Chris Exley. Welcome to you. Now, this video, believe it or not, is also shot by a volunteer, a guy called Alex Castro, who is on the food and beverage team at the Yacht Club. And he shot a drone video for me last year. He would much rather be a full-time Hollywood-type filmmaker or a YouTuber. He's the deputy F&B manager, I think, at the club. He's got a real paying job. And I keep saying to the club, hey, won't you let me have him for a couple days for the week? Yeah. And I said, oh, no, he's far too important here. But he nonetheless goes and shoots some drone videos for us for the shoreside shows, and we appreciate Alex Castro very much. Now, speaking of snoopers, snappers, photogs, we have 3 of them, 3 people shooting this event. And this is a photo from a series of photos from the Alec Coleman's, the Canadian team, one of his crew, Will, I think is his name, Will Maugan, I think I've got that right, fell overboard, and they pulled him out. And, we don't miss a damn thing when you've got, not much anyway, when you've got 3 photographers out on the water. And this is snapper par excellence. She calls herself the Shooter. She has a boat named Shooter. And Mary Longpree, whom I've gotten to know well, and I love her to death, she's been shooting this regatta for years and a lot of other things in SoCal. She has her own boat. Again, a terrific racing sailor. She wins women's events and mixed events all the time on her, what is it, Santana 30.
Mm-hmm.
Valentine, Mary Longpre of Balboa Yacht Club, another terrific racing sailor. Here's a video from, I think, Thursday that I shot, and she's right out there in the middle of the action. Have a look. It's just about 2:30 in the afternoon on Thursday out here.
That blue boat right in the middle is Mary.
Watching the pre-start between Jeffrey Petersen of the Balboa Yacht Club, hometown favorite, arguably, and Max Paul, a terrific sailor from the Royal Sydney Yacht Squadron in Sydney, obviously, Australia, coming up on about a minute to their start. It's been a very aggressive pre-start here. You can see the umpires watching closely here in the rubber boat. Here is the esteemed Mary Longpre shooting on the board, of course, shooter, as they're now approaching the line. Still more than a minute to go. In what can only be described, lesser commentators, we always make fun of them when they call days like this champagne sailing conditions. There's a minute to go, and it is a fabulous Thursday afternoon out here, probably close to 80 degrees, maybe 78 degrees. Gentle, but still pretty steady, solid. 6-7 knots of breeze.
Okay,
and,
so you get the idea. And Mary, who, as I said, is a terrific shooter, she's making a comment, so she's obviously watching the show. And she is the one who got the man overboard. Bill Wingrove's talking about it. Mary Longpre is also the one who got that man overboard shot of Leo Leonard Takahashi a few years back. And it's Jody Shields saying, "Crikey, you have more people than Tom Cruise had on his latest movie." Well, I'm not sure that's true, but 200 plus volunteers led by Madam Chair Christine Gribben. Rick Banderow saying Friends only use 3 cameras. Well, that's because, bloody hell, they're live to tape. They're going to shoot scenes, and then it's live to tape with the studio audience. And if they have to retake it, fine. And they can move cameras around, and they can start and stop, and then go into post-production. We can't do that. We're live. And what you see is what you get. So you got to have cameras, and you got to have good camera ops, as Mary Longpre is saying. Robert Rollins, who was not only doing cameras for me, but he was also doing the camera, the rear end, the stern end camera on the media boat. Mary Longpre, thanks, Tom, for nice words about my photo work and my racing. Yes, 34 years. 34 years of shooting for GovCup, which is only 56 years old. And Mary also goes down to, for you Aussies, she is normally down there. She and her husband love to go down to Hamilton Island Race Week and to Airlie Beach for the regatta before that. So you might see her down there soon. Okay. We're an hour and 13 in, but this is really a retrospective now of what was just, by all accounts, by everyone's estimation, a fantastic event. Our second shooter, she goes normally, not always, but normally on the race committee boat. And she has been a snapper, she likes to call herself. Bronnie Daniels and her company is called Joy Sailing. Mary is Mary Longpre Photography. And Bronnie Daniels has been shooting for the last 10 or 12, maybe longer, and she and Pink there on the race committee boat. So that's our second photographer covering the event. So now you've got Mary on her boat moving around, and she gets great face shots, and Bronnie gets kind of the cool boat shots from the race committee perspective. And then we have yet another who was this year was the official photographer, a BYC member, as is Mary Longpre, Tom Walker Photography, and he's out on a small boat also moving around. That's his son, Tom Jr., on driving for the boat for him. And Tom comes from New York almost every year to help drive his dad around. I don't know who's the lady, I guess, whose back is to us. But Tom is the one that I talk to in the morning, and we say, here's what we think is going to happen. Here are the people we're going to need pictures from for the press release, and maybe for the morning show the next morning or for the press conference tonight. And then Tom takes those and then some, and then he reviews them. He sends me a dozen shots at the end of the day. I pick through them and say, well, we need these 4 for the press release.
So it is strategic. We don't just, the photographers aren't just out there banging stuff out. And when Mary Longpre says, hey, I've got these 3 shots of Alec Coleman's crew, Will Maugan, I think it was his name, going overboard. Do you want those? By all means. She sends them over to me. I put them in the press conference of the morning show the next morning. So it is strategic. And it's a lot of work, but a lot of fun. And we all get a great, as you can tell, a bit of a high from it. Julie Aarons, it was such an exciting regatta, well documented, and the kids were so wonderful to watch. Yes, indeed. Mary Longpre is, in fact, leaving tonight for Australia and Hamilton Island Race Week. We'll send you some stuff. Please do.
Oh, good.
She usually does here, Julia, for the show.
Yep.
We've had it on, Mary's stuff on before, and we appreciate that. Jody Shields. SailGP has heaps of cameras, but only the one that's focused on GBR seems to work.
That's true too.
I'm not sure it's so true, but Jody's done commentary for them as a keen observer of that passing.
Right.
Scene. Okay, now I just want to mention one other guy without whom we could not have done the television, and that's a guy called Ken Sherb. And Andy brought him on at the very end of the telecast on Saturday, brought him on to the set with us in the back of Adios. I thought you'd enjoy this.
Popularity of the Barbie movies, he dyed his
Ken
hair
Sherb.
blonde. But let me also say, Christine, Gribben has done a terrific job at everything she does. Ken, last year, Chris Bretschker was very irritated because you deserted us to actually sail in the Governor's Cup. That was just stupid,
I'd do it again.
I know you would. Well, now you're back, so this is the Sailor Ken, all right? And as a spotter sounds, you probably don't know a lot how that helps us. Without the spotters, we would be talking gibberish. They keep us
even more so.
Even more so, yeah, even more so. They tell us which boat is which, where they're going, what we're going to look at, etc. So can't thank you enough. And I hope you and Barbie have a good night. All right.
So this kid, Ken Sherb.
Ken Sherb,
okay.
Our crack spotter. Thank you, Ken.
Okay.
And from all of us, we thank you very much for joining us around.
Okay, we don't need to watch the outro, but Ken, who works for Bain and Company, they had some. Everybody's got a day job, including me. I'm here with Julia doing Sailing Illustrated, my day job. Ken was in. They had some kind of, because of the movie Barbie. Mm-hmm. And they had some kind of a party at Bain & Co., the big management consulting firm. And they were all encouraged to dress up as Ken and or Barbie. Uh-huh. And he did the whole full Monty. I mean, when I got there, I didn't recognize him. I've known him for several years, and he sailed in GovCup. And he is a fabulous helper for the telecast as a spotter and statistician. And
did he bring Barbie with him?
No, he did. Not that we know of. Now maybe he's got a Barbie stashed away somewhere.
Yeah, because I was going to say I didn't see the Barbie.
Alistair Murray said he saw Barbie last night. Brilliant. I have not seen it, but I looked at the trailer last night. Also for Oppenheimer, I looked at that trailer as well because I'm switching one of the skits in the Stag Cruise show. We were going to use Thelma and Louise. Remember Thelma and Louise on the road? What was that, 1981?
Yep.
A little dated. And I'm going to switch it to Ken and Barbie.
Oh, that's good.
Okay, so just to wrap up here, it was without doubt one of the best GovCups, if not the best GovCup I've had the privilege of being involved with. These 12 teams from top to bottom were all superb representatives of their countries and of their yacht clubs. I cannot emphasize that enough. Finally, next year's event is already teed up for the 22nd through the 27th of July, the 57th BY Balboa Yacht Club, of course, Governor's Cup. The kids are all right. I talked to several of them this morning and helping me to prepare this segment. They're all, those who have not aged out, are all hoping for an invite. And I think especially you'll see the Callahans back, and Morgan Pinckney and his team back, and Jeffrey will be back. I don't know if Cole Tapper has another year or not.
I think not.
Did he say he didn't?
I think they were talking about in the boat, and I think not.
I hope so. I certainly hope so, because if not, we'll miss him. But with 3 Aussie teams there this year, that country is well represented because they do a terrific job with match racing, as do the Kiwis. And increasingly, Great Britain and the Low Countries and even Scandinavia and France. As you've seen, and now it was great to have a Canadian team and a Brazilian team this year, so bravo Zulu to them all. Any other comments? Awesome racing. Ryan Davidson. Hello, Ryan, who was the deputy PRO. Awesome racing by everyone this year. And Ryan, thank you for your superb job backing up and filling in for Dr. Don Becker, if and when it was necessary. There's a question here about let's see, Alistair Miriam guess. Okay, you guys can make your. Actually, Chris actually said he saw Oppenheimer Saturday night. It's must watch. Okay, yeah, Larry Kennedy, I've got some word from the 12-meter worlds. I can tell you how that, at least in part, how that went today. And Stingray will talk about the Taylor Canfield rumor in a moment. But let's, before we get to that, move on. From GovCup to this day in history. Julia, do you know what happened this day in history, the 1st of August, and not the founding of Switzerland in 1291 or whatever the hell that was? What happened in 1774? And I thought this was really appropriate for a drinking show with a sailing habit, sailing problem. Here is your first clue. And you won't know likely who that is, but his name is Joseph Priestley. Great Britain, England, 1733 to 1804. So he predates the America's Cup by half a century. Any idea yet what happened on this day, August 1st?
None.
Okay. IPA was created, Banner once. Good guess. Baton Rouge is replying. Ryan Davidson lives in Charleston, so he and Baton Rouge, Baton Cannon, must know each other. Works, I think Ryan does. In fact, I'm quite sure. Okay, here's your clue. Priestley initially became a minister, another clue, and a teacher, publishing an important book on English grammar, Julia. Your favorite topic and the favorite topic of my beloved 89-year-old mother. He then became interested in electricity, and after encouragement from the visiting Benjamin Franklin, began experiments on what he considered unanswered questions in the field. Priestley went on to discover 10 new gases, including, there's your answer, oxygen in 1774, which he called the phlogisticated. Now, the phlogistication, I had to go look all this up, they thought, remember when they thought everything was composed of fire and earth and air and what was the other? Water, I guess. Those four items. Well, he discovered oxygen, and because of experiments that I won't go into that I read about last night and this morning, he figured that this air had become dephlogisticated. And I won't go to that process. It turns out now to be a completely the theory was completely wrong. The whole phlogistication theory was all wrong. But it was also a guy called Carl William Scheele discovered oxygen about the same time. But this guy wrote it up, and as usual, when you write it up, you get the credit. And he was awarded the prestigious Copley Medal as a result in 1773. But he's widely credited with discovering oxygen in 1774.
Isn't that interesting? I never thought about discovering oxygen.
Well, and 9 other gases, I guess, as well.
Yeah.
Now, wait, there's more. Given the nature of the show, I had to cover this.
Oxygenation.
Yes, that is soda water. Joseph Priestley invented carbonated water, fizzy water, agua con gas, frizzante in Italian. Independently and by accident in 1767 when he discovered a method of infusing water with carbon dioxide after having suspended a bowl of water. Here you go, Jody Shields. A bowl of water above a beer vat at a brewery in Leeds, England. He wrote of the, quote, peculiar satisfaction he found in drinking it, and in 1772 he published a paper entitled Impregnating Water with Fixed Air.
I think that's lovely.
Oxygen is a code word for bimbos, Larry Kennedy. You know what bimbos are? What are the comments are rolling in here now? Moo, bah, okay. They're excuse me, they're going to make some jokes now, but the bimbos are the Marxette people. They have their own union called the bimbos.
Really?
Yeah. Mark Boat. It's the something. Bimbos are the something. Larry will help me out here. International Mark Boat Operators. I can't remember what the B stands for. But back to this, okay? So Joseph Priestley invented carbonated water, while Priestley's discovery ultimately led to the creation of the soft drink industry. Think about that.
Yes.
Which began in 1783. I had no idea. When Johann Jakob Schweppe founded Schweppes to sell bottled soda water. Priestley did not benefit financially from his invention. Priestley received, as we said, the Copley Medal for having discovered and done, discovered oxygen and then having done this. So, Julio?
Yes.
Here, I thought it was only proper that we should recognize this guy and your favorite cocktail. And there it is, tequila soda. And without soda water, you could not be enjoying your now favorite cocktail.
Yes.
We'll figure out who decided to put lime in it, but that probably goes way back. And therefore, thank you, Mr. Priestley.
Yay.
Huh?
Yes.
How's that for a tie-in to our sport, to our show? Had to reach a bit.
Yeah, I know. But it was all right.
Not too much.
It was all right. It was tasty.
Body of International Mark Boat Operators. The body. Okay. And Graham Sweeney saying, if he impregnated it, does it make him the father? The father of Dr. Pepper. Well, Coca-Cola had cocaine in it for a while.
Yep.
Right, back in the day. Neither you nor I were around at that point. Exley is saying, replying to Clayton. What did Clayton say? He said something up above. From Jaws, here's to swimming with bow-legged women. Oh, gosh. Okay, we better get off this and get you just a quick. We're going to cover some more of this on Friday, but the 50th Fastnet race, I took a bit of a powder from covering it because of the GovCup last week, but it was wet, windy, and wild, at least the start. And here is a wrap-up video, one of several that we'll run, only one today, and we'll run some more on Friday.
For one of the world's most demanding offshore races, conditions this year have been both challenging and spectacular. The Rolex Fastnet race. There were celebrations in Cherbourg as excited crowds welcomed the first yachts to finish. From the start, the contest between the Grand Prix multi-hulls promised to be enthralling. Late on the second day, the 105-foot French trimaran SVR Lazartigue, skippered by François Gabard, was first across the line, setting a new outright race record of 1 day, 8 hours and 38 minutes.
It's a Fastnet race and it's a win, and I was looking for it for a long time now, a few years, so I'm really happy to do it with all the team.
Then it was the turn of the monohulls. Could the largest maxi in the fleet, Brian Earhart's 88-foot American entry Lucky, hold off the challenges of the foiling 60-foot Imokas? Lucky was winning at the halfway mark, rounding the Fastnet rock ahead of Paprika Arkea and Massif. But on the return leg to the cities, Lucky was overhauled as the two French Imokas raced neck and neck to the finish line. Crossing first to claim monohull line honours, Massif, just 4 minutes ahead of Paprika Arkea in a thrilling finish.
Everything worked perfectly, so yes, I can't believe how good my team is. It's an amazing work.
Join us again as we switch our attention to the contest for overall winner of the Rolex Fastnet race.
Rolex does such nice videos, and we'll cover some more, get the other videos. But we're already an hour and a half in. I knew that GovCup segment would go a while, and I'm glad we did. I'm glad we talked.
Yeah, because it was a really good look at everything. So that's good.
But this was a terrific event, record-setting event, as you will have seen now on this Rolex video. And as I said, we'll talk some more about it on Friday. Meanwhile, Cows Week is going on, and you don't see Pindar or McIrvin on here, for example, our two Andrew Foseys, because there's the big RORC dinner tonight, and there's another dinner that was, or a party, a cocktail before that. And if you've been watching them on Facebook, you'll see how windy it has been, not only in Weymouth, where John Emmett is, but also in the Solent, where they're running Cows Week, the 29th of July, through the 4th of August. With a forecast, this is the report from today, day 3, with a forecast indicating a good chance of getting back on the water today, Tuesday, following yesterday's abandonment of all racing. There was an air of excitement in Cows this morning. Even the miserable early morning drizzle failed to dampen the spirits of competitors, and it was a relief it all went to plan on the race course, particularly as it was the presence of the coolest royal.
Yeah.
Her Royal Highness the Princess Royal, Princess Anne, who was on the water watching the racing on Royal Navy Day, and Charity Day. And we're going to get to her in a moment, but I don't know. Those of you who haven't been to Cows Week, put it on your bucket list. It's a fabulous event. Great on-shore action, great offshore. I mean, the racing is epic. And everybody who's anybody in British, if not beyond, yachting are there for Cows Week. Back on shore, competitors and visitors of Big J70 fleet were treated to a parade of the band of His Majesty's Royal Marines, who marched through the town to the Royal Yacht Squadron. The west-southwesterly airflow, although significantly less than yesterday's blowout, was still hitting 20-plus knots, which made for another exciting day. And again, if you're watching Pindar and McIrvin, the Andrews, Pindar, and McIrvin's Facebook pages, they've said doesn't look like they're going to race there tomorrow, just like we heard from John Emmett, doesn't look like they're going to race in Weymouth tomorrow for the 29er Worlds. Now, speaking of Her Majesty, or Her Royal Highness, rather, she goes there. She's the honorary president of honor of the Royal Yachting Association with her husband, and goes to, I don't know her well, but I've met her. We've carried on, Princess Anne. And Graham Sweeney saying that she was with them up in Scotland last weekend for the tall ships race. And she is, as Ted Ryman says, he sent this quote, live is wrong. My graphics department screwed that up, meaning me. Gotta love HRH Princess Anne, always a sailor at heart. Nice quote sent by Ted Ryman this morning, and we'll update Cows Week on Friday. One more segment. I just thank again Rick. I'm not going to get Rick Bannerose. You saw some of the pictures. I put them on my Facebook page. We're going to get a photo essay or a video from Rick on the stuff he's been covering on the East Coast. And this now from the other corner of the world, from Alistair Murray, who was out with Tracy, his wife, following Comanche around the 100-footer. And this is the latest, Alistair's awesome Aussie anecdote. Simple, but cool. And here he is, out on a powerboat, I guess in Sydney Harbor. I'm not sure where. Maybe he says so in the text which follows, with his wife Tracy, following Comanche on a breezy day. And he says, "G'day" to Julia and all the Fozy. Tom, I think. Julia and all the Fozy. I was chatting with a big fella, Ian Murray, today. He is now sailing on Comanche, enjoying a lot of success with a winning combination, excuse the pun, of John Winning Sr. and John Herman Winning Jr., his kid, who have her on a long-term charter, that is Comanche. Talking to Ian, we call each other cuz because we're both Murrays, made me think back to Comanche's launching and early days. This video is my wife Tracy and me following Comanche out of the heads at Sydney. Oh, so it was Sydney. This was way back in 2015. In the Sydney to Hobart race of 2015, I thought the Fozy might enjoy seeing it. The first few seconds really give you an idea of her speed. We were in a Princess 71 doing 30 knots. I'll run that again. They're doing 30 knots in the powerboat following and just keeping up. Of course, Comanche is old news by now. She was phenomenal at her launch, but the advances in the latest foiling race boats demonstrate what an amazing and exciting sport we are all part of. Thanks, Alistair Murray. Another terrific report.
Great photo.
Huh? From Alistair for the AAAA. Alistair's awesome Aussie anecdote. gets us to the last leg. And this is probably a good time to discuss the rumor a couple of you brought up about Taylor Canfield. And Stingray, thank you for your note. Was it last night or early this morning? There are some rumors. I also heard from Daniel Grun in Germany, in Augsburg, saying he'd heard or read the same rumor. Apparently, there is some, no surprise, some idea that Tommy Spithill's brother, Jimmy Spithill, might step down as the helm, as the skipper of the USA Sail GP team. He's not had a great year. And to be fair, he's also very busy now with Luna Rossa Prada Pirelli. They're getting serious. So sorry?
Oh, good.
So if he might be too busy to carry on doing the Sail GP work for the Team USA, and there's the rumor that Taylor Canfield might be coming on to steer. Now, I've checked around, and that so far does not, as I told you, Daniel Grun, earlier today, that does not compute. I've talked to some senior serious people, and they're saying, no, not necessarily. They're looking maybe for somebody with more foiling experience than Taylor. Taylor's a hell of a good sailor. Won Congressional Cup in big, heavy, slow monohulls. He's been doing a lot of foiling action of late in other classes, and in the Moth, for example, where he lives down in Miami. So maybe Taylor is the man to come on and help resuscitate Team USA in Sail GP. But to answer your question, I'm not going to do a one hears and say this is what's happening, because I don't know, and I can't seem to get anything.
If you know, tell us.
Well, I don't think anybody knows for sure, but I have checked at the highest levels. Back on the Princess Royal, I have had the pleasure of meeting HRH Princess Anne. Very impressive experience, Gordon Smith saying. Graham Sweeney, I've got a great story I'll tell you one day about the Princess Royal. It's very funny and respectful, okay? Record it for us, Graham, would you?
Mm-hmm.
And we'll run it on Friday's show. Just put your phone camera up on a tripod and record it for us. Princess Anne was with us we mentioned that. And Christiane Price up above saying, great production on the GovCup. And of course, her son, Harry Price, won it, twice?
Yeah.
Is that right, Christiane? Wish you could have done the Olympic test event. No live coverage, just triangles on a blue screen. Chris Exley watched all the GovCup on Friday and Saturday. Outstanding racing and amazing coverage. Well done, Tom and team. Bill Canfield replying to Christiane Price, that's what WS does. The basics or less. Well, they got a financial issue, and I'm not going to defend them. And I'll tell you who's got a real financial issue, and that is U.S. sailing. And there's going to be some big breaking news on that front. I can tell you, one hears very soon. So stand by for that. Any other? Julie Aarons, the Moth is a very good boat to train on to learn foiling. Yes, indeed, but you're not going to go into Sail GP just learning foiling. And maybe Taylor is the top guy in the American heap, and maybe he will be the guy. We'll see. There's his dad, Bill Canfield, is on here. Hi, Bill, Mr. President. I think he's still president of the Virgin Islands Sailing Association. If not, he was for many years up until just recently. That gets us to the last leg. And I am not going to do much of an America's Cup report, because this is about the America's Cup 40 years ago from 1983, which we'll be celebrating. Ed Worley's going to help me gather some photos, gather some things from 1983, which was the end of New York Yacht Club's 132-year winning streak when we lost the Cup to the astonishing, amazing Aussies on Australia 2 in that famously cool 4-3 series. Dennis Conner was up 3-1, remember, in 1983 and lost 4-3 when the Aussies did their big comeback. So what is going on, however, in Newport as we speak? Today was race 1 at the 12-meter World. As you heard us on the GovCup commentary, Andy Rose and a lot of the It's Okay guys, the team that sails with him on the 50-footer, are back in Newport. They flew back Sunday morning early. I was so beat. I could barely get back up here to San Francisco in one piece, or feeling like I was ready to do this show even. I almost said, Julia, why don't we take two?
You did say that, but I said no.
Julia said, no, you can't take it off. So she's my boss, our coordinating producer, and she waved her finger at me, right?
Right.
I'm waiting for you to wave it. I put you on camera here to wave your. Nonetheless, at Newport, Rhode Island, fabulously beautiful Newport, Rhode Island, And I ran a story that the New York Times ran on Newport, Rhode Island. I think it was
a while ago.
No, this was 3 days ago. They ran a fabulous story on Newport, Rhode Island about what to do if you can go to Newport for 36 hours. One of those typical travel log stories. I think it was on my Facebook page. And I remember it was the New York Times or somebody else. But that's what's going on the 30th of July through the 5th of August, the 12-meter Worlds in Newport, Rhode Island. And before you accuse me of mistyping that lower third, this is what the meter boats are all doing now. They're saying 12, small m for meter, R for rule. The 12-meter rule. So instead of 12M or 12 MTR, whatever, that's the code now that the 6 meter, 5.5 meter, the 12s are all using for their class name. ITMA, International 12-Meter Association, is what I always call it. I used to be deputy chairman of it and chairman of the technical committee. Beautiful photo promoting it. That's Daniel Forster.
Yeah.
Remember when Daniel came on? I think that's Beavertail. Bill Canfield will know, and several others, maybe Chris Exley and others of you will know if that's the other side of, I think it is. Regardless, Freedom, who won the 1980 America's Cup, widely regarded to be among the top 12s racing in the 12-meter Worlds this week. That was the start of this morning's one and only race, thanks to guess who? Christine Gribben.
Oh, yeah.
Who also flew to Newport from Newport Beach to help Andy with media and shoreside logistics and just be part of the scene and the fun. Team Andy Rose Sailing Defender US 33 won the start.
Yay.
There they are, winning the start. Nailed it at the pin end of today's one and only race out in Rhode Island Sound, out in the ocean. And then their boat speed is suspect. We knew it probably was going to be, and they slipped to fourth in today's one and only race. And before I went to air, I looked to see online, and there was no results that I could find on the 12-meter website or so on. Maybe others of you will now know who won that race. Regardless, we will cover it in some detail and the whole World Championship on Friday. I ask you one final little thing here, because I haven't done a correct or crutonic in a while, and I didn't want Jody to think we were ignoring him. This was a note from Margarita Marshall, who married John Marshall in the last, 10, 12 years, but I've known her for a long, long time. Talk about superb photographers and writers covering the America's Cup for the Italian media, including newspapers and magazines. And she said on her Facebook page a day or so ago, "Today, the America's Cup is way too far from the experience of the average sailor, and those boats will never be around and sailing 40 years from now." And I ask you, is she correct in both senses of what her assertion here, or crutonic? Because on the occasion of the 12-meter Worlds in Newport, those boats from 83 or before, 80, Freedom, are 40 years old and still racing. And there are many others, not just the 12, 10, 11, 12. I can't remember how many are actually racing in Newport this week. Is Margarita Marshall, is she correct or crutonic? I ask the Fozzie.
Well,
what are they saying here, Julia?
Both.
Look at Jody Shields has managed to get his favorite word.
I know.
In. You want to read, or do you want me to?
Yeah. He says, I get the same tingle when seeing.
Every time you mention the 1983 AC,
yeah,
you can read the rest.
But I'm on a different page right now.
I get a tingle in my testicle. Ditto what Jody said. Gordon Smith says. Alistair Murray, an Aussie, of course, and president of the Australian Sailing. Grant Simmer, who was on Australia 2 in 1983, is sailing this week on Freedom, the other. But, well, Freedom was the 80 winner. Liberty was the 83 loser, Liberdog. And I'll give you a little America's Cup. Ed Worley knows this. Do you know that red boats have never won the
Yes.
America's Cup.
I-
Liberty was famously painted red. Dennis Conner's boat in 1983, and it lost. Mariner, which was another red boat that Ted Turner raced in the trials, never got to the match in '77. Red boats. And Il Moro, the Italian boats, Paul Kayard's boats, were kind of reddish orange. They were red.
Yeah.
Il Moro di Venezia. Excuse me. Yes, Bill Wingrove, defender was bow out, but they're not. Actually, two things happened. I'm told by, I won't say who, but by sources in Newport, because, this stuff's coming in as I'm trying to get the bloody show put together. They had a big righty. And again, most of you who sailed Newport, Rhode Island, know that the breeze in the afternoon out on Rhode Island Sound normally clocks a bit to the right. And today it went left. It went back. It backed. I beg your pardon. It did go right. I beg your pardon. The guys on Defender, Andy and Co., went left, and the breeze did, in fact, clock. So they missed the shift.
Mm.
And they're also, I think, they've got a speed problem, touch of a speed problem. We'll see if they get the boat going. They're all bright guys and good sailors, so we'll see. I think the Freedom was faster than Liberty, Ed Worley is saying. That is true, but you know, Ed, why Freedom could not sail in the 83 match. Couldn't sail. Dennis wanted to use Freedom when he built Spirit, he built Liberty, he built Magic. Was that the other boat he built? 3 boats for 83. And Freedom was still faster than all of them, low freeboard. But the rule had been changed, and Freedom was still eligible to race under a grandfather clause, except if they did certain things, one of which is moving the forestay. Once you move the forestay, a whole lot of measurement things that relate to the position of the forestay on a 12-meter. I'm now talking as I said, former chairman of the technical committee. And a whole lot of things change, and Freedom was no longer receiving the grandfather clause.
Oh, I didn't.
And therefore was getting a different rating and was going to have to drop some sail area or add some weight or something.
Yeah.
And therefore was no longer enjoying the quickness that she had in the 80 match. So that's why Freedom did not race in 83, or else I'm pretty sure Dennis would have. And I'm not sure the guy who changed the forestay was shot or otherwise.
But who knew that?
Well, they should have known. They didn't have a good rules advisor
That
in
was
83.
the problem. Yeah.
I was advising all of the defending syndicates, not just Dennis. Stingray's making a crude joke here about getting a tingle watching Princess Anne. We won't read that one in full. Nothing is more beautiful than a bunch of 12s at the start, Chris actually is saying, and I'll bet you most people on here agree. Ed Worley is saying that Margarita Bottini was her former name, is correct. Chris actually agreeing, correct. The current boats will only exist in pictures in 40 years. I think Clayton Embley is spot on. Wingrove saying 1,000% correct with a German K. 100% correct. Banero says, bring back the 12 for the AC. Tier de Jong says, correctamundo. Jody says, Graham Sweeney, totally correct, but a lot of the other AC boats only lasted the event they were made for. True. Correct, the AC boats are from the last 30 years, have mostly been taken off the water. They are too fragile. Gordon Smith is correct, of course, he's right. If the IACC boats, which is the class that succeeded the 12-meter class, as you all know, are not racing, then the foilers won't either. And that is true. Mary Jude, hi, Mary Jude. I think she is, Margarita Marshall. She's correct. I don't think these boats are made to last. I think the Freedom was faster than, yes, Ed Worley, I'm pretty sure it was too. American Eagle, there was another one, didn't win the Cup, but was red. Had a good afterlife as an ocean racing boat at the hands of Ted Turner. Stingray, I like how the AC-50s have gone on to F-50 upgrades for Sail GP. They are amazing. Stingray being a big fan of that event. Chris Exley's got to run. Another great show and a great follow-up on the GovCup. See you Friday. Thank you, Chris. Go left, get left. Freedom was altered, so was not eligible for 83. Clayton Embley, spot on. She was modified. Yep. Golden rule in sailing, go left until the right pays off. In which hemisphere? The northern hemisphere, the southern hemisphere? Depends which way the water's going around the gurgler, right? going around the toilet. Freedom was modified out of class. Well, not out of class. She was just going to be penalized. She wasn't going to have she was not going to have the favorable rating that she did leading up to. I thought they moved the rudder post on Freedom. No, I think it was Bill Wynn. I think it was the force day, but maybe the rudder post too. Cher is correct. The race is supposed to be about innovation. She is correct. Julie Ahrens is saying the race is supposed to be about innovation. If one pays attention, Prince Albert wanted the whole 1851 exhibition to be about innovation. Fair enough. Build the Super 12. Well, we're not going to do that anytime soon. But Julia, anything else before we wrap this one up?
I just found my Super 12 pin.
You did? Well, I've got a few more. If anybody wants a Super 12 pin, let me know. We'll send you one. Especially if you're a foes, if you're on here regularly, and appreciate your support. That gets us to the finish line. Bill Wingrove and the Davis Island Yacht Club photo, courtesy of Christopher Howell, and the GovCup, the winners of the day. Anybody who had anything to do with this event, especially the 200-plus volunteers, you are the winners of the day, as are all 12 teams of either 3 or 4 sailors. Terrific job by all. Thank you for being a part of it. The losers of the day, there is the photo you were asking about. See, that's the jump-in photo, at least 2 of the 3 crews, Jeffrey and Max Brennan. And you can see Patrick Lieber about to leap from the bow of the bosun boat onto Jeffrey's boat. And that is Father Greg Newman at the helm of the bosun boat. Those guys work their butts off. The losers of the day, anybody who called Jeffrey and his team professionals, because they are anything but paid to race professionals. And I had some criticism. Say, oh, Jeffrey's just too good. He's a professional. He's dedicated himself to match racing. That's all he does. Not true. He does a lot of other things. He's sailing right now at the 12-meter worlds as the navigator on the back end of Andy's boat. He does the collegiate sailing, team racing, and so on and so forth. They all have day jobs, including Max and Jeffrey and Enzo Mendito in one capacity. They're not pros. None of those teams are pros, as far as I'm aware. They're all, in fact, their profession is going to school.
Yeah.
Right now. They're all going to uni, and good for them for doing so. Okay, Whiskey, Tango, Foxtrot, Julia, it's that time of the show, and we've got a few goodies today. We'll start with a clean one, courtesy of Ed Worley. To Route 40, turn left. Your GPS is wrong. There are parts of the world where that is the case, where the GPS just doesn't work for whatever reason. That was a cool road sign. I like that, Ed Worley. Thank you for sending it. Another one from Worley, and this Graham Sweeney has been monitoring the orca situation up there in Scotland. Maybe we'll get an update from him, too, if he sends us a video. Orcas? Uh-oh! This is the shark. Don't eat my liver. Apparently, orcas have a reputation, right, for eating sharks, but getting to their liver, the iron-rich liver. Relax. We're sinking yachts, the orca says. Yachts, huh? Are they full of rich people? Lots of marbling, I guess. By Jove, I think we should abandon ship. Do you see that? That's the shark with a couple of little, what do you call the hand puppets? You know,
yeah.
Where's my hand puppets? There we go.
Yeah.
Okay. I thought that was clever. Apropos all this attention this is still getting, and I guess it's still an issue. Ed Worley, thank you for sending that. You'll guess by the end of this, although it's clean. My wife asked me why I spoke so softly in the house. I said I was afraid that Mark Zuckerberg was listening. She laughed. I laughed. Siri laughed. Alexa laughed.
No.
Huh?
That is alarming because it does happen.
They are listening, but I'm not so worried. I don't have anything to be worried about, I don't think. But who knows? Maybe I do. Ted Ryman, thank you for sending that one. Finally, Julia, this one is it's a different version of the one we've run before. The family insisted that at my age I should install a bar in the shower. Joe Holtzman sent that in for our drinking show with the sailing prop.
Yes.
Do you have a bar? You have a bar in your shower?
In the bathtub.
Oh, you do? That's, well, in the bathtub, that's better yet. Okay, thanks, Joe Holtzman, for sending that one in, the drinking show with the sailing problem. Okay, that gets us to Julia's favorite slide of the day.
This is a great show to like, follow, and share with those folks who've never heard of sailing or match racing. It'll give him a good look.
And even those who have.
And
of
even
course,
those who have.
comments are welcome. Even in replay, we leave the comments open for the many of you who do watch it in replay. And like Joe Holtzman and many others of you, hope you become a patron via patreon.com/join/Sailing Illustrated. We are viewer-supported media, and we appreciate the help. We also appreciate, thank you. Somebody asked me, what are your code flags at the end of the show? I said, bloody hell, you must know what they are. THANKYOU. Thank you to those who give us media for this show. Videos, photos, and audio, including a bunch of you probably still on here connected with the GovCup. And otherwise, final look at the comments. Thanks all. Have a great weekend. A great week, Gordon Smith. Yeah, I wish it were Friday. I feel a little bit like it is. Stingray says he just likes to pee in the bar. What kind of a comment? Carlos Aviz, who watched some of the GovCup stuff. Carlos, your team for Brazil, Carlos, was fabulous. I'll tell you some more about those guys. I didn't talk enough about them, but I got to know them as well. I sat at the Monday night dinner with the Commodore and the Rear Commodore, and we had the Brazilian team with us. And I was talking to them. They speak Spanish fluently. And I, with my broken Spanish, we got along just fine. Yeah. And they speak Portuguese, obviously, and a little bit of German and whatever. And the middle crew, Gabriel spoke great English. He was a terrific translator for the team. Okay, thanks, everybody. We do appreciate very much your watching again. We hope to see you on Friday when we'll do this all again, same time, same channel. And in the meantime, sail fast, sail safe, and have fun. Ciao for now.